Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining for another episode of Zim's Beer Review. I'm your host, Garrett Zimmer. I first want to start off by saying thank you to everybody. Our most recent video, the Roadhouse Sweet Potato Porter, has actually done really well. People seem to like it. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people, so thank you, everybody who's been watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, whatever you might be doing. Speaking of subscribing, I would like to remind everybody, please click subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. It lets you know when I have new beer reviews coming out. And if you like something, why not subscribe to it? So anyways, thank you for that. But we're going to get into the beer that we have today. So the beer we're working on today is, if I can get it out over here, it is New Belgium's 1554 is the name of it. That's all it is. New Belgium 1554. I'm going to give you a little backstory on the 1554 beer name, where it came from, as well as some New Belgium history as well, and everything. But I want to get into this. It's a quite interesting beer. It's described as an enlightened dark ale brewed with spice. So it's not a porter, it's not a stout, it's a dark ale. This is a first for me. I've never had a dark ale. I've had ales that were dark, never a dark ale. So we're going to use Shaverwood's handy dandy bottle opener here. If you're interested in purchasing one, check the link below. Okay, we're going to, almost slipped, open this up. Dark ale. Okay, smells like a beer. So far, so good. So, very dark brown. Oh, it's getting black. It's getting real black. This is a dark beer. They did call it a dark ale. Yeah, the color on this is like, that is black. I really can't see through it. Even holding it up to my computer monitor here, I'm having a hard time even seeing light through this thing. A little bit around like the bottom edge here of the glass, you can kind of get a little light, but that is a dark black beer. It kind of smells like a porter or a stout. It had a foamy head that dissipated extremely quickly. I don't know if that's the beer style, this 1554, or maybe I got a bad one. I'm not sure. We'll see. I hope it's still pretty carbonated. But the head died out almost immediately. Still carbonated. Interesting. Very caramely. Like a molasses caramel flavor to this. I would say coffee notes, coffee, caramel, molasses. If you weren't sure, you'd probably think this was some sort of a stout or a porter. I'd say more on the porter side, but they claim that it's not a porter and not a stout, so I won't compare them. I'll try not to compare it like that, but it does resemble a porter, we'll say. This beer is, of course, a dark ale. A little backstory on this beer in particular. The 1554, brewed by New Belgium Brewing out of Fort Collins, Colorado. This beer, actually, they had the recipe for this beer back in 1997. Unfortunately, there was a flood near their brewing or their brew house and everything. They ended up losing their recipe, specifically this recipe, in an old book that they had. They had found this centuries old, literally a beer recipe, centuries old. It was ruined in a flood, and they didn't have record of it anymore. So they had no way of brewing this any longer. But they were determined to rediscover the dark ale. It wasn't called 1554 at the time. That comes later. It was a Zwart beer style. That's Zwartbier. Zwart style. But they were committed to refinding, if not this exact recipe, one very similar. So they went traveling. They ended up in Brussels at a library in Brussels where they found another, even older book than the one that they had lost the recipe from. And the book was dated 1554. Inside of that book, inside the book's pages, they found another beer recipe for a Zwart style beer. They ended up taking, a picture of that recipe, taking it home, and brewing the beer with that recipe. And I can only imagine how difficult that was, because I really doubt that the brew methods back in 1554 or around then, whenever it actually exactly was written, I'm assuming those brew methods are probably a little different than how we brew beer today. So even down to like units of measure, I would imagine, are all different. So I bet that was some trial and error trying to figure out, hey, how the heck do we make this beer today? Maybe they're not using pounds. I mean, I know they're not using pounds. We use pounds in the United States and a few other countries, but everyone else uses kilograms. Who knows what they used 500 years ago? I have no idea. So, anyways, they finally did it. They first brewed this 14 years ago, it sounds like. And then they named this beer 1554, of the namesake of the book that they found it from in Brussels. Quite the backstory on this specific beer in particular. A little backstory on New Belgium Brewing. They started around 30 years ago. The idea came to them in 1988 when they were riding on some like cruiser type bikes through Belgium in 1988. The original founders were. And they decided hey, we need to bring a brewery to Fort Collins, Colorado, where they were from. So they ended up making it New Belgium Brewing because they were going through Belgium at the time, sparked their interest. Hey, we need to make a brewery. Let's do this. They go back. That's 1988. 1991, they do it. They start a home brew at their Fort Collins home. And it has taken off from there. If you are not familiar with New Belgium, or maybe it's not jumping out to you, I'd say their most popular and most famous beer would probably be Fat Tire. I know it's, for me, the first New Belgium beer that I had ever had. I know that's probably the case for a lot of people simply because it's so popular. To the point that even I knew of Fat Tire and I didn't even know who brewed it. So that's how popular the name Fat Tire has become. Fat Tire, of course, is an homage to a Fat Tire bike, which is how they ended up beginning their whole idea of starting a brewery, was on a bike in Belgium. So it's all tying together here. That's back in 1991 that was brewed. They went on to win tons of awards for their different beers. And then one other cool fact that I wanted to let you guys know about was in 1999, they actually started a new tradition. They call it their New Belgium branded anniversary bikes. So what they do is, for all of their employees that they hire, on their 1-year anniversary, they give them a cruiser bike that's New Belgium branded. Super cool. You can go on their website, which we're going to pull up here in a minute. You can go on their website and check out all the 1-year anniversary bikes that they've done. Super cool idea. I think it's awesome. So yeah, that's what they do. We are going to now pull up the website preview here. So if I can reach over, see if we can do this, pull it down. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Hey, we're trying. So this right here is New Belgium Brewing's website. It is newbelgium.com if you're interested. They have a ton of beers. We're going to go into some of their beers. I just wanted to show you their homepage a little bit. Here's the Voodoo Ranger, of course. This might be something that you're familiar with, the Voodoo Ranger series. This 1985 IPA is something new. I've actually never seen this in stores. They have a little thing here. You can find it near you if you're interested. But of course, there's the Fat Tire beer. So yeah, this is kind of just their homepage. We're going to go straight up to the top, click on beers, and you can see they have everything. All their Voodoo Ranger stuff, all their Cellar Club stuff. Fat Tire specifically, because they have more than just one Fat Tire now. Year-round beers. We're just going to click all beers and go straight into this. I want more of this 1554. As far as dark ales go, it's my first one, so it's also my favorite one. But I'm drinking it as if it's a porter. I really enjoy this. I wasn't sure what I would think. It's super smooth, silky smooth. The alcohol content on this, I think, is 6, but very good beer. Well done. So we're checking out their website here on, this is all their beers. Here's their current beers. Fat Tire over here, of course. Fat Tire Belgian White. And then we get into some of their Voodoo Ranger stuff. So Voodoo Ranger is an IPA. I think all of the Voodoo Rangers are a form of IPA. It's like their IPA line they refer to as just Voodoo Ranger rather than by a different name. So underneath New Belgium, they have Voodoo Ranger. Underneath Voodoo Ranger, they have a ton of IPAs. So we have the standard, Imperial, Juicy, Hazy, Starship. Who knows? I mean, they have pretty much everything. They've recently expanded into the sours and the sparkling beers. I think these sparkling ones are, everyone's doing them now. Citradelic is one of their more popular IPAs, but they just have a little bit of everything. I'm telling you. And then they get into these. These are their old style. I don't even know if they're all Belgian. I'm hesitant to say that. I believe a lot of them are using either Belgian recipes, styles, or yeast or hops. Somehow or another, they're tying it back to that. But these are a lot of old style beers, ales, sour ales. Here we have the 1554. So we're going to click on 1554. And here is the one we are drinking today. We're going to wrap this up with a little facts about the 1554. Really cool looking bottle. This is from their Belgian collection that I was showing you, and they call it an enlightened dark ale. Surprisingly bright taste and a dry chocolatey finish. Yeah, I mean, definitely chocolatey. I taste like a coffee, caramely. They say it's evocative of the dark brews enjoyed in Belgian taverns 500 years ago. That's just crazy. 500 years ago. And then it's not a porter. It's not a stout. It's 1554. I really think that you guys should try and find this beer. If you have a beer buffet near you, which is kind of like a create your own 6-pack, I encourage you, see if you have one of these, grab one, give it a try. It might not be for everybody. I personally like it, and I'm not a huge fan of porters and stouts. My friends will tell you that. I'm more of an IPA guy. They're not really my go-to beer, but I can appreciate a good one. And this is a pretty dang good dark ale. Year-round, I would say this one doesn't have a whole lot of the spice that doesn't evoke like a holiday season where a lot of porters and stouts get drank and bought in the fall, Thanksgiving, Christmas, that time. This one manages to have a similar taste without evoking that same, I don't know, whatever that is. You know what I mean. You know the thing. So, yeah, I encourage you guys to give this one a try. I think it's a very interesting beer. It's got a really awesome backstory. I just think it's something that you guys should try. And yeah, so anyways, thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to New Belgium for traveling all the way to Belgium and Brussels and everywhere you went to find these old beer recipes. I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. I'm going to have to take a trip down to Fort Collins and tour your brewery someday. Check out some of the original beer equipment. But anyways, thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We'll be back here soon with another. Have a good one.